Well, today I think is a powerful word that I want to just kind of bring to you guys, and I pray that it minister to your heart and soul and make you think, and it is life changing. The title of my message this morning is "Where is your faith?" I want all of you to think just for a minute, just what I said. Where is your faith? And for those that don't know, or you're curious about what faith is complete trust or confidence in someone or something. And that's by the dictionary standards. But God says in Hebrew 11:1, if you got your Bible, you turn there. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not yet seen. How many of you want to please God? How many of you love God? All right. That's a blessing. Well, if you turn also to Hebrews 11:6. But without faith, it is impossible. It is impossible to please God without faith. For he that comes to God must believe that he is, and that he is rewarded. He is a rewarder of them that diligently seek them. So if you want to please God, first, you got to have the faith to please him. And what he's saying, you got to trust him. How many of you trust God? How many of you trust him this morning to get up? What about yesterday? What about last week? Are you trusting him for tomorrow also? Because it takes faith to trust God to do anything. You know, it's amazing. We can have faith in anything and all things, but when it comes to the Word of God, we fickle. We're untrusting. You know, just a couple examples. You know, when we turn on the radio or the TV, as long as you got power source, when you turn it on, you're expecting to get a signal. You're expecting to get a picture. You're expecting to get a sound. You're expecting to get music. Just getting up in the morning and breathing. You don't even think about it. You don't run or go find an oxygen tank and put on a mask to breathe. You're just breathing. You don't even. It's not even a thought. But it takes faith to live. It takes faith to obtain things. And we have to live by faith. Faith is a lifestyle. It's not just for today or tomorrow. It's a lifestyle. You have to live it every day if you want to see results of what you're believing for. I just like this saying, you know, you have to do something. Faith also takes works. You can believe in something, you got to put action to what you're believing if you want to obtain anything. How many of you are tired of being tired of not having enough? How many of you are tired, and I'm speaking to most of you that's homeless out here as well, how many of you are tired of the same old rut? Your stomach is hungry, you don't have money, you don't have drink, you don't have a job. Are you tired of that? Yes. You got to make a change. And you got to start by faith. You got to trust somebody more than yourself. Because most of you are living on your self-ability. But you got to start living on God's promise. That's where it's at. That's where you're going to see the difference. And it starts with faith. Like it says earlier, it's impossible to please God if you don't have faith. If you don't trust him. You got to trust him. You got to trust somebody. You have to. Even trusting ourselves sometimes. We can't trust our own self sometimes. It's a diligence and it's a faithfulness, but sometimes we can't even trust our own self. You know, our mind tell us things, our heart feel things, but sometimes we can't trust that because we're going about emotions and feelings. So I just want to challenge you to trust God like you never trusted him before. And it start with faith. In Hebrews, I'll talk about that. Hebrews 11:6 about impossible to please God. But faith is that lifestyle, and you have to live that every day to see results. And there are many measures of faith, and you may fall in one of these categories. But you ask yourself, which one am I? There's little faith, there's weak faith, there's dead faith, there's increasing faith, there's strong faith, and there's great faith. Which one do you fall in? Just ask yourself, which one do you fall in? Faith is always increasing. We all don't have the same measure of faith, but God gives us the ability of faith. And by studying the word and being in the word, your faith increases. By hearing the word. Faith comes by hearing and hearing and hearing. Notice it didn't say it come just by you heard. You got to keep hearing. You got to keep encouraging yourself despite of the circumstances. You know, one word in my house, and my kids will attest, and my wife, in my house, can't is not in our vocabulary. It's not in mine. I just don't accept can't. Because God said we can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. So can't with me, when you say I can't do something, you might well lit fire up under my feet, because I'm gonna run with it. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna try to make it happen. First, being led by God to know it's okay for me to go that direction to get it. Everything I obtained, I did it by faith. When I left my job at Coca-Cola to start my business, great job, Spencer Account Company car, traveled around the world, making them millions of dollars. And just one day I just got tired of the deception of the company. And becoming a Christian and the faith, it was a conflict. And I had to make a decision. I knew some things that was in me. I just needed an outlet for it to be manifest. And I was so ready to leave the job, I just prayed, Lord, I'm ready to leave this place. You know my heart, but if you want me to stay, I'll stay. When I prayed that prayer about 3 months later, I kept getting a peace by leaving. At the time, my wife wasn't working. She was pregnant with my first son. And here I am thinking about leaving a job, a good job at that. And one morning, as I was praying, I just felt a peace. I was going into my job that day. I just felt a peace. Like the Bible says, peace has passed all understanding. And I asked to speak to my boss, and I said, I want to resign. And it's like, what? I want to resign. Well, what are you going to do? Well, I'd already been doing my sign business. I had opportunity to open a restaurant, but there was no money there. So I just trusted God, because I know in here, my mind was telling me all kind of stuff, but my spirit gave me a peace in what I needed to do. And his boss called his boss, and they came and tried to actually talk me out of it, and kept asking me, what is my future at Coca-Cola? I said, well, I didn't tell them the conflict of my Christianity and the conflict of the job. I just told them it's time for me to go. And I'm starting my restaurant. I'm doing my sign company. We knew you. I've been talking to some of the guys, so I was telling them what I was going to do. Didn't nobody believe me. I've been saying it for years. But this day, it was serious. And I talked to my wife, and I prayed and told her what I wanted to do. And she trusts me, because I've been a good provider. I've always tried to. My daddy instilled in me, you take care of your family no matter what. You're a man, you provide. So I've always been good of doing that. So that was one thing on my mind, because where was the finance coming from? Like I said, I was doing the signs in the restaurant. Didn't have any money to open the restaurant. But the guy who I went in partnership with, I grew up with him. And he knew me, he knew my character, he knew my work ability. And when he designed the restaurant, we came in and designed it. We did all the signage. Didn't charge him a dime. Had him just buy the materials, but I kind of went in there and did, me and my wife and some friends. And after the whole thing, I was more excited, I think, than he was, because we were creating something. I was helping him to create something. And through that, he said, I know you don't have money, but your time that you put into this thing is equivalent to the money. So will you come in and be my partner in this thing? I about fell out. I couldn't believe it. He already had 2 restaurants in D.C., so I believe what he was telling me, because I seen the results of it. And faith sometimes is unseen. It's in an area where you never went before, and it's scary. But when God put that in you, if you can see a vision, like this ministry, if you can see the vision of this, the vision of it, where it's going, where God is in it, you just move with the Spirit. You go with what God is telling you to do. And you see the fruit of the Spirit. You guys got some of the fruit. You've been blessed. You've been fed. by the word, by the food, by clothing. You know, you see the fruit of it. So faith is unseen, but you got to step out, and sometimes it's scary to step out, but do it afraid. As long as God is leading you, do it afraid. You step out and he'll meet you on your journey. Everything is not always easy. You may not have enough. And I tell people sometimes in business, because we do a lot of businesses and new fresh business, and they always kind of want pointers and everything. And I said, we've done this business by faith. And if you're a materialistic person, don't even start, because you may lose everything before you get anything. I've lost houses, cars. With my wife, she's not out here now, but that's my third marriage. I lost 2 marriages following my vision. It cost me something. When you walk in my office, I got a phrase is that know what your dream would cost you and be willing. Ask yourself, are you willing to pay the cost? Are you willing to pay the cost to get off the streets? To not be homeless no more? It takes something. I know you're probably depressed and got anger and fear and doubt, whatever it may be. Only you know and only God knows. But at one point, you have to say, enough is enough. I'm going to trust in something more than what I've been trusting in. I'm going to trust somebody higher than me, somebody who created me. Just do it. Just do it afraid. I also like this phrase, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But whatever you do, move forward in doing something. You got to do something. God already done everything he's going to do. He's waiting on you. God's, you know, we make the phrases, I'm waiting on God. It's been over 2,000 years. Come on now. God's waiting on you. We've all got the same opportunities. You got people that's millionaires and billionaires. You got some that's poor. And the difference is opportunity. Some people took a chance. Some people stepped out. Some people lost everything. Some people gained everything. So you got to ask yourself, is it worth it? Is it worth it? You got to have expectations. What is your expectation? When you woke up this morning, what was your expectation? Was it just to come find a meal this morning? Was it to get a cup of coffee? To get clothes? And all those things we need. But go beyond that. What was your expectation when you woke up this morning? Was it to change? Most of us don't wake up in the morning expecting to change or want to change. We all have hopes and dreams. And ask yourself, why haven't I succeeded in those? I think a lot of it is life distractions, fear, doubt, disbelief, and our faith and focus in the wrong thing. So we have to change our focus. We got to focus more on God instead of self. We make everything about self. Me, all day long. Me. You know, I was thinking about this morning, I was riding by here about so many people need jobs. And I'm just old school. My dad, if he didn't steal nothing in me, he'd still work. And I was just putting myself, I said, man, if I couldn't find work, what would I do? You know, the devil tell you, go sell drugs, go rob, steal. That's all the devil's tricks and traps. And we fall for that stuff seemingly instantly because we're thinking about flesh and emotion. But if I was going to jobs and they turned me down, if it's a restaurant or a business, if I'm just sitting there, I'll pick up the trash can and start emptying trash. I'll take a broom and start sweeping around just for them to see what my character is, what my work ability is. Won't say a word, I just do something. And I guarantee you, you will get noticed. I remember when we had a restaurant and it closed, and we opened up a concession trailer. And I was sitting right down here downtown, close to the State House, and I thought I would feed those meters with our trailer sitting there. And the city came, I think about a month, told you can't do that. I said, well, I'm feeding the meter, so it's not like I'm sitting there free. You know, I'm giving something here to sit there. Cars parked there, watching I park my trailer there. But they told me you got to leave, you got to move. And one of the prime spots was in the parking lot, in the empty parking lot. Cars parked every day. So I finally found who the owner was, and I asked him, can I park my trailer there? He told me no. Man, I just really wanted that spot. And I went back about 2 weeks, I asked him again. He said, no, absolutely not. About a month later, I wrote him a letter, asked him the same thing. Didn't respond. Wrote him another letter, 4th time, didn't respond. 5th time, I went down there again, sat in his office, told him where I was. He had me wait about an hour, and he finally let me in. And he just sat there, and I asked, well, I wrote you, I've given you letters, and I want to put my trailer out there. And he finally said yes. He said, I'm going to tell you why. He said, your persistence. I told you no 5 times. But yet you kept on, regardless of what I told you, you kept on so you can go sit your trailer out there. And that taught me something is, people can speak life or death over you, and they can tell you what you can't do. But look at what God said you can do. And God can touch people's heart, and you can get favor with people. If you don't have money, favor can open doors for you sometimes that money can't. But again, you have to do something. You have to do something. Just don't sit there and murmur, complain, and say, oh me, oh why. You got to trust God. You got to come to God. And you got to operate in your faith. God has given us all an assignment. We all have an assignment. Some to be singers, dancers, doctors, lawyers, ministers, mothers, fathers. He's given us an assignment. If you can go to Ecclesiastes 9:11. Ecclesiastes 9:11. All right. Ecclesiastes 9:11. Let's see. Give me 1 second. I'm sorry. Go to Hebrews 12:1. I got my scriptures kind of mixed up here. I got my scriptures. I think I wrote them down wrong. We all have an assignment, and we have to hear from God to know what that assignment is. Know what God is telling you. You have to seek Him to know what He's saying. Just don't go out on your own whim, just doing stuff because it won't work. I heard T.D. Jakes make a phrase, and it changed my life. If God's with you in the beginning, He'll be with you in the end. What you start, you have to finish. But what God starts, God will always finish. He will always finish it. But where a lot of us miss it is those hard times, those struggling times, those times with no money, those times where people are discouraging you. We're weak in faith, we're doubtful, but you have to keep pressing and keep pressing and keep pressing and keep pressing. You have to endure. You have to endure. Because when you quit, that's when you fail. You never fail if you keep trying. It may take you a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. But you keep trying. And you always seek God's face to know what to do every time. Not just sometime, but every time. What is your passion? What do you got a passion to do? There's some of you out there, I know there's a lot of talent. It's a young man, I don't see him out here. But a couple of weeks, I sat there and talked with him. And little did I know, he was a great artist. His work is down here at the Art Center. And I researched it because I was just curious, and I'm an artist too. And I sit there and wondered, why was he down here? He has paintings that go from $2,500 to $3,500 in the museum. And he's out here. The fear. His downfall was fear. The fear of succeeding. You know, you can have fear of succeeding. You're so used to being in the rut, you're so used to being stuck, that when you get challenged with opportunities, you run the other direction. Why is that? It's a spirit of fear, and it's going to cost you something. How much do it cost you to live on the streets? Does it take any effort? I do commend you because you all have great survival abilities. Great survival abilities. But so many of you have great talents too that can get you out of the situation you're in right now. If you seek God, if you do something, if you make the right connections, it can happen. One of the biggest things is that I don't have the money. That's one thing I heard when I started my business. I didn't have the money. Well, I didn't have money, but I had favor with my partner. He made me a partner with no money, but my work ethics, my work ability, helping him do what he was doing, blessed me. And it gave me the strength and encouragement to start where my passion was, which was the sign company. We've been in business 26 years now. And I tell you, it wasn't us. It was God. Because we could have failed many times. I know about 12, 15 years ago, through a series of events that was really out of our control, is me and my family was homeless at one point. And every time I think about it, I ask myself, how did I get there? Well, through a series of events of the people I was paying the mortgage to wasn't paying their mortgage. We were renting a house to lease, to buy. And we've been renting a house for 5 years. Come to find out he was not paying the mortgage. So we get a nice letter in the mail. You got 30 days to move. We put a lot of stock, me and my wife, 3 children, a mother-in-law. And I already had a vision of wanting very nice things. And I put those things before me and I went for those goals. And we found a place, but it wasn't where I wanted to be. I wanted to raise my kids in a different environment because I grew up in a pretty bad environment. Pretty bad area. Not a bad environment in my home. Loving mother and father, hard-working father. He taught me all these things. Over here on Wolf Street, gang infested, killing, shooting on a daily basis. Wolf Streets. I see about 3 guys here that I grew up in this area, so they know what I'm talking about. We grew up in it. But out of 6 kids, we were more fearful of my father than the streets. Not one of us ever sold drugs, steal, killed, got in the gangs because we're more afraid of my father. We're all more afraid of our father. All of us are doing pretty well now. But it was the combination of both my parents and what they instilled in us that made a difference. But I just want to encourage you today is don't quit. You fight. Not a physical fight, a spiritual fight. So when you get up tomorrow morning, have a different expectation than you did this morning. You can do it. We're praying for you. We're believing for you. Just like we're believing for those same things for our life and our family. And I just encourage you all just to stay in the Word. Keep the faith. And I ask you today, trust God. Trust Him like you never have before. Because this is a different time. It's a different season. And I believe some of you, if you move into that season now, it's going to be different than last time. Doors are going to open this time. Blessings are going to come this time. But you got to do something. You got to do something.